Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Thursday Advisor Team webinar. I'm excited that you're all here, and we're excited about our topic today, which is creating effective applications. Okay, and we're talking about credit applications. There's many different types of applications you're filling out as a business owner, and so we want to make sure these applications are filled out correctly. The advisor team is also, of course, always here to help you fill out any application. You can give us a call or send us an email anytime, and we will guide you through this process more. Well, let's dive right in. Just as a reminder, we do record this webinar, and when it is finished, you will receive a lovely email with the recording, also a link to our YouTube channel. Make sure you're following us. Anytime we put a new video, you'll receive a notification. That way, you're getting all the latest and greatest tools and resources that we're putting on our YouTube channel. We're excited that you're here. We also have Jessica with us. Jessica is a lender that joined us so that she could tell us what she likes seeing on applications and supporting us in any questions we have about effectively filling out credit applications. Let me take her off mute. Jessica, are you with us today? I can see her, but I don't hear her. Jessica, are you with me? Well, in the meantime, I will send her some messages, and we look forward to hearing from her today. Let's get this started, and we will dive in. Okay. So effective applications. First of all, let's minimize chances for decline. So as many of you know, I was a lender for small businesses before I started advising. And the reason I switched over to advising is I felt frustrated for all my clients that would apply and get declined for silly reasons. And as a banker, you cannot coach a client on how to get an approval. There's a bit of a conflict of interest there. It's really up to you as the business owner to put your best foot forward always. And so these are tools and resources you need to understand as a business owner long term. That's why we're so excited you're part of our program, because you're really getting a head start. We're helping you to eliminate that learning curve. So let's minimize those chances for declines, fill applications out correctly the first time, and improve your credibility. What does it mean to be fundable? We want your business to be fundable. We've talked about the credibility of your business. We've talked about fundability. And essentially, we want lenders to see your business as a safe risk. We want them to feel comfortable with lending their money to you. We want them to feel like they're going to get that back, that you're a legitimate business. And we don't want them to have any questions in that area. Deserving of funds, able to repay, an actual company or individual that's authorized to borrow. There is a lot of fraud out there, unfortunately, and a lot of the reason that banks are so timid in lending is for this reason alone. These fraudulent applications will come through businesses, false businesses, using a PO box, for instance, without a real business location, a faulty phone number, and apply for credit, and then get that credit, and then of course not pay it back. So banks are trying to prevent any fraud from happening, and that's why it's so important to put your best foot forward. Complete that step one that we have in the program, where we're preparing you and your business for any underwriting and verification process that a bank is going to put you through. That's why we stress things like a business address, phone number, making sure your EIN and your state filing have the correct business name and address written out, because when a lender gets your application, they're going to verify those things. I know when I received an application, I would look at that business name and address, pull the Secretary of State record, and if everything matched, I felt more comfortable. If I pulled up the IRS filing for the EIN and the business name and address were once again written out correctly, I again got that much more comfort, feeling like this is not a fraudulent company. This is real. They have their ducks in order. let's say that that client did not have those things in order. It doesn't mean I'm not going to lend, but I'm going to ask them for more information, things like tax returns or a copy of the business license and so forth. You don't want to go there. You want this to be simple. So completing that step one is so important, building that credibility. That's the last time you'll hear me talk about completing step one correctly. We've done a whole webinar on that before. Okay, is there an actual wrong way to fill out an application? Yes. Unfortunately, there is. I've seen applications where I got a whole bunch of chicken scratch and I wasn't quite sure how to read it. I wasn't sure if I typed out the email address right. I wasn't sure if how to even spell out the address because it looked all garbled together. We want to make sure that lenders can actually read the application if they are handwritten. Okay, so we talked about writing legibly, completing step one. You want to complete the whole application. That's something I want to stress a lot. I know lenders, as a lender, it's frustrating because that's very common to get an incomplete application. Read the whole thing from the beginning to the end. And I know we're so used to running a fast-paced world and it's hard to focus, but just like my first grader's homework, you've got to read it from top to bottom. And, our attention span doesn't change a whole lot when we're younger to when we're older. And we've got to just pay attention and read that whole thing, complete the whole application, read the disclosures, read all of the information so you're not surprised. Okay, we talked about the next item. So answer the questions honestly. I get this question a lot. What should I put for my annual gross sales? Well, I certainly can't tell you what to put for that number. And my response is always, you want to answer every question honestly because that stuff is verifiable. So DMB will have a range for your business on your DMB report of your annual gross sales, and you want to have that number right within a legitimate range where your business really truly functions. Okay, so honestly answer those questions. All that information can be verified. There are legal ramifications if you do not fill an application out correctly. And so you don't want to deal with that or even have that worry as you're filling out applications. Fill them out the best you can as honestly as possible. Describe your business well. And we're going to dive into an application, so this is just a precursor. We'll go into these in more detail. Describe your business well, meaning if you are a real estate investment company, that is a high risk area, but you're also managing properties. So I would say use something like property management or property consulting as your business description. Try and stay away from those high risk areas where lenders just simply won't lend. Describe your business well enough so that they understand what you're doing. But if you are in a high risk area, you want to make sure that you're noting the lower risk items that you're doing within your business. Don't forget to sign and date your application. I know that sounds funny, but a lot of applications get submitted without a signature and date. And you want to make sure that everything goes seamlessly. You don't want any hiccups. Just complete that application from the beginning to the end. So your application is in. Let's see if we got Jessica here. Let's try and connect her with her one more time. Jessica, are you with us?
Yes, I am, and I'm
Okay.
sorry about the confusion earlier.
No, that's okay. We're so glad that you're with us. This is probably a good time for you to introduce yourself. So Jessica is a lender that was so gracious to join us because I felt like it's great to get more than one perspective and hear more than one voice. So, Jessica, we just talked about, all those items that lenders like to see. Did you want to dive into that a little bit more from your perspective?
Yes, I do. You threw some really good points out there. The annual sales, that is a big one with me. I do unsecured financing, so our sales, what we bring in, we have to be accurate with the sales, but they typically don't come back with financials or requesting financials. But that being said, just because you are not requesting financials does not mean that you can't be accurate, or you can't be uh, exactly what you make, or as close to what you make as you can, because it is, just like Megan said, verifiable. That being said, if you're a startup business, you don't have prior year's gross sales. So it is questionable as to what you put there. You can't put zero. So what we do is we ask to, based on your business plan, what is your projected forecast for the first year? If you have a number, make sure it's reasonable, because again, this is something that it's verifiable. So if you're a startup business, you have to have your business plan available for them if they ask for it, to say this is how we came up with this number. Um, Completing it, the application in whole, is a big one as well. I get a lot of uncompleted applications, and it does delay the process. If you don't know a question, or if you're a little confused about a question on the application, I highly recommend call your financial advisor, call the person that you're applying to, or the company that you're applying to, before submitting the application, because it does delay the process, and in some cases it will negate the funding. You'll get declines if you're not properly applying as well. The signature also is a big deal. I get a lot of times in my disclosures, the bottom of the disclosure signed, but in the middle of the disclosures, where it's requiring some initials, I don't get those back, the initials. So that is just as important as signing the bottom of the disclosures or the application. You have to sign any initials on it as well. So just make sure that you're reading the entire application and not missing any small initial signatures you want in the middle of it, or any signatures in the end, that if that happens, you know, obviously we have to have those signed as well at the bottom of the application. Um,
Perfect.
I think that's about it. Yeah.
It's just nice to hear another voice on here, and we're excited that you're here because you're such a great lender
Oh, thank you.
within
It's a
our
pleasure
program.
being here.
Yeah, yeah. So you heard it from me, you heard it from her. Read that application top to bottom, look for places to initial, read the fine print, ask questions, and really spend a good amount of time on that application. It shouldn't be something that you just graze over. Just remember, that is your storefront. You're essentially, you're handing this to the lender saying, give me money. You want to do it well. Okay?
Mhm.
So your application is in. What do you do next? And let's see, Jessica, I'm going to leave you off mute. So if you want to chime in, just feel free to.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
So the application is in. Now, what do? You follow through. Your follow through is just as important as sending in, um, filling out. I meant to put filling out that application correctly. So once you do submit the application, I highly recommend making sure they received the application. Okay, you can send an email, give them a call. It depends on the lender, they're all different, but it doesn't hurt to follow through, make sure they received it. Once you know they received that application, oftentimes they will publish how long it takes to underwrite. Like with Staples, Office Depot, a lot of them will give you an immediate answer. Some of them will tell you 24 hours. If it's not published, give them 48 hours and check back. Okay, and find out what the status is of your application and so forth. This is going to keep the process going. We have found with lenders, sometimes things fall through the crack, and it's an unfortunate event when a client submits an application and then I get a call 3 weeks later, hey, I haven't heard back. Well, we lost, and you are business owners that we want to take good care of. We lost that time where you could have gotten approval. So now we have to start that process over again, make sure that application is submitted, and so forth. So we want to eliminate errors. Follow through is very important. Jessica, do you mind if people follow through with you? What are your preferences as a lender?
I don't mind at all. I love the follow through, the follow up. It lets me know that the persistence from that client just lets me know that they're very interested in getting the funding. It is very, very, very common that if you are following up. Let's say you put in an application and it's been a few days, you haven't heard anything back. It's common that just that follow-up is all it takes to get the approval, just like Megan said. So it's if you don't follow up, it could be weeks that you don't hear anything back, or it's very common that, like I said, you'll get an approval just with that follow-up. In my case, I don't normally, if an application comes my way, because it's typical in my business that we have funding advisors working with the clients and business owners. So typically we have someone, kind of a middleman, going between myself and the business owner. That being said, it doesn't mean you can't contact me. If you're contact your funding advisor who you're working with, if you're not directly working with a lender, following up, because the funding advisor will come back to me if I don't already have the response already. They'll come back to me saying, hey, just want to check up on it, and I can give them an accurate time frame of when they're going to get that back. So follow up is very important, just like Megan said. It's just as important as the application. I agree.
Love it. Thank you for your thoughts. So that I thought of something while you were talking. You talk with so many people as a client when you're submitting applications. So write down their contact information. Keep every detail handy. So if somebody reaches out to you for additional documentation, write down their information or ask them for their specific email address. Get as much information as you can on these individuals, because once they're off the phone, sometimes they go into this customer service black hole where you can't really contact that person directly ever again. So while you've got them on the phone, or you've got an email from them, compile that contact information just in case you need it. Okay?
That's right.
All right, let's go to the next one. What if, so you submit your application, you put your best foot forward, you answered the questions effectively. You know what, at this point, let's actually look at an application before we go that far. Okay, so this is the dashboard, and all of you should be extremely familiar with this page here. So we walk our client through, of course, in step one. Let's prepare for financing, eliminate silly errors. Here's the perfect recipe for making sure you're putting your best foot forward. You're going to get through underwriting seamlessly if you complete step one. Then we go to step two. We identify what financing you can qualify for right away. You're assigned your finance officer at that point. Then in step three, we review your business credit reports to make sure they're set up correctly. That business name and address needs to match on all of your records, including your business credit reports. And then in step four, that's where we get to the fun part, where we start building your business credit reports. Now, just like starting to build personal credit, it's not always easy. The credit isn't always as desirable, but keep in mind, a majority of lenders do check your business credit, even though they don't report. So for instance, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, these guys are checking your business credit reports, but they don't actually report. So you want to make sure these business credit reports are established. So when you went through step four, you had lists of trade accounts. Oh, we lost our login. So you had lists of trade accounts, and you selected these accounts, and they ended up on your dashboard. Okay, we'll have to go back here. Okay, so on your dashboard, you selected these accounts that you're interested in. Within that page, you received, once you marked those boxes, you got to the very last page of step four. It gives you more detail on how to apply with these accounts. You can also see that additional detail on your dashboard. When you're going through and selecting those boxes, you don't get all the application detail until you get to the last page or the dashboard. Once you do that, you'll get the links to apply. So for instance, I have an application up here. This is Staples, and Staples is underwritten by Citi, I believe. So these, you'll see that their application looks similar to other lenders, like I believe Home Depot used the same application. Okay, so on here, let's just go through this application. Marketing source, we have no idea. We'll leave it blank. It says if applicable. For legal business name, this has to be the business name that is written on your Secretary of State record, on your DMV file, all of those records. Okay, so it needs to match completely You don't want any spelling errors. We're going to take our time, put our best foot forward. Doing business as. A lot of my customers are known as, for instance, ABC Corporation, doing business as Bob's Construction, and their clients know them as Bob's Construction. So a lender may see that Bob's Construction out there, like on the 411 listing and so forth. So you need to make sure that you put Bob's Construction on your DBA field. Your street address should be the exact street address that's listed with your 411 listing, your corporate filings, your DMB record, your business licenses, EIN. Everything needs to match. Put your business phone number. This is not your cell phone. Remember, creditors can see if it's a cell phone or not. If you do have a cell phone, let's make sure it's business. And this is a step one item. We also want it listed under 411. For instance, Staples, I know, verifies that 411 listing during their application process. Taxpayer ID. Do not put your social security number in this field. These are trade accounts, and they're different than the applications we would fill out for a lender like Jessica. On these trade accounts, never, never, never put your social security number, because we are not personally guaranteed these. We know that these can be approved without a personal guarantee. So it's important that we exhaust those options and get you as much credit as possible without personally guaranteeing the credit. What does it mean to PG? Just so you know, it means that you're personally liable. This credit may not report on your personal credit report as debt, but if the business goes south, seriously delinquent on that account, they can come back to you personally for those funds. It also creates an inquiry when you do a personal guarantee. So if you put forth that personal guarantee for the Staples card, but then you go visit Jessica, you've diminished your approval amounts because you just created an abundance of inquiries on your personal credit report. It's very important that we're orchestrating those inquiries and protecting them. Treat them like they are gold. Okay?
That's right.
Jessica, how do you feel about that?
That is exactly right. One of my number one decline reasons is inquiries. People don't realize how important it is to have a clean record of inquiries in the last 6 months to 12 months to go with what I'm doing to get
Mm-hmm.
what I get for you. So it's very, very important that if you have the opportunity to apply for something without using your personal social as a guarantee, do it, especially if you're going to attempt to get some business funding through me or through someone like me.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yes. So treat those inquiries like gold. I just want to have you absorb that phrase. Honestly, anytime somebody asks you for your personal credit, uh, think about it. Is it worth it to me? Is it worth that inquiry? That's why you're in our program, is we are eliminating the learning curve. We do not want you shopping around with that personal credit, because those inquiries are going to make it more difficult if we are going for any credit with a personal guarantee. Okay. All right, so now we're off that soapbox, and you feel confident that those inquiries are gold. Okay, so do you operate from your home? This is a question that you may feel nervous about answering. You've got to answer it honestly. Your business address here is easily identified as a home address or business address. They have Google, just like we do. There's software programming where they automatically know if it's a home address or a business address, because they're connected with the United States Postal Service records. So you need to answer that honestly. If you are a home-based business, does that mean you will be declined on the spot? Well, with Staples, no. There are some lenders that don't like home-based businesses, especially some of our revenue-based lenders. But if you simply do not have the option to have a business address, it's okay. Just select that you are a home-based business and you move forward. Now, let's say you're using a virtual business address, and I'm not talking to UPS store, not talking a PO box, because we've already ruled those out in step one. Those are typically triggered as a higher risk address. So if you're really using a virtual business address like Regis or some other local executive office, then you click no. You are not a home-based business. You have an actual physical business address. And then on here, are you a franchisee? Basically, you answer that question as it lays. Okay, in business sense, this is a hard question. What do I put? Do I put the day my bank account opened? Do I put the day I incorporated? Or do I put the day I got my business license? Well, none of those are necessarily the wrong answer. We want to go with as much time in business as we can possibly get. A safe one is to go with when you were incorporated. If you incorporated a little later than you started running business, let's say you opened your business bank account and started operating in 2007, but you didn't actually incorporate until 2009. That's a difficult situation because your business actually started when you incorporated. So I like to stick with the incorporation date, but you can put when your bank account started, and they will verify that number with the Secretary of State. They will also verify it with your DMB file, which states when your corporation was filed. Sometimes DMB will put notes, hey, they incorporated in 2010, but they were actually running business 2007. Well, that's good for you because then you could put that 2007 and that lender can see that paper trail there. Okay. Jessica, for you as a lender, and that's really a lender specific question, what date do you prefer to see on an application?
I typically go for the incorporated date when it was incorporated. That being said, I'm not a stickler by it. I have had in the past somebody that did exactly that. They started their bank account and on one date and they didn't incorporate until 10 years later. So what I did is I put the date that they started their bank account and they had proof that they did start running their business. And when I did that, that it worked. It was good enough because you can come back with proof that she has been running for so long.
Perfect. Yeah, so you can see as much as we want everything to be perfectly black and white, it just isn't. And so that's where you'll want, as a business owner, you'll want to ask questions, talk to the advisor team. We'll coach you through the best answers. And it doesn't hurt to talk to the lender too if they will actually talk to you about those type of questions. Okay. All right, annual revenue, that's a common question that we already went over. You want to be as realistic as possible. Just remember you're legally signing this contract that everything's true. So, and a lot of this information can be verified. I know applications with some lenders, if you put over $1 million in annual gross revenue or sales, then they will ask to verify it. It's just an automatic trigger for tax returns and so forth. That said, if you're over $1 million in annual gross sales, maybe you have those tax returns and it's not a bad thing. So, stay in close contact with the advisor team and we'll coach you through any questions you have in that segment. You can also talk to the lender directly. Number of employees, again, just a realistic answer there. Parent company, this won't apply to most of you. If your entity is owned by a parent company, you'll enter the information there. We typically don't recommend building business credit where you have corporations layered. For instance, ABC Corp owning Bob's Construction, owning Bob's Lumberyard. It creates a verification mess, and sometimes lenders want everything so automated that they'll simply decline. Okay. Number of cards requested. So in this case, you would select how many cards you want to be sent to you, meaning you could give these to your employees and so forth. Now, keep in mind, if they make purchases, you're still liable. Is a purchase order required to make purchases on that card or within this account? You can click yes so that your employees have to have a purchase order. Are you tax exempt? Some entities do have that tax exemption, and you would know if you have it. Are you a member of Staples Rewards? You'd enter your information there so you get all your rewards. On your email address, please don't put partychick@yahoo.com. Put your best foot forward and put your best contact information. If that lender needs something, you want to be there to answer the phone. So Jessica's laughing. So on the street address here, you're putting the physical business address, but you can put a separate billing address. I get that question quite a bit. I have my physical address, but I want things mailed to my P.O. box. That is just fine. Put your P.O. box in this area. put your bank information here. This is a reference type item. They typically will not do any research in that area. It's just simply for their records. And then the authorized officer signature, you're putting your information there saying, I am authorized to submit this application on behalf of the entity, because it is the entity getting the financing. You'll mark the boxes, make sure you read all the fine print, and hit continue. That is a standard application. They are rarely any more in depth than this, unless we are going for a collateralized loan, because they'll want information on the collateral. Or if we are going for larger sized financing, sometimes the application will have more questions on there, especially referencing your financials. But in general, that is the standard application that you will see between all lenders. Lowe's, same way. You can see here the individual's name, about the business, year started, how many cards, annual revenue, number of employees. See, things haven't changed much here. Now you do see on this one, personal guarantee. Well, you know, because we just spent a couple minutes talking about how your inquiries are gold, you're not going to submit your personal information here. Don't let it trick you. It's not a required field. I see no red asterisks by this information. Just leave it blank, and then you'll submit your application. Okay. Anything else to add on that, Jessica?
No, no, there's
Okay.
not. I think you covered everything.
Covered it. All right, perfect. So what if you get declined? We don't want to jump into the negative first, but what if you submit your application, you put your best foot forward? What if you're declined? Well, first of all, especially on these trade accounts, we have an elaborate getting approved paragraph included with each lender. And for instance, a typical one my clients will do is submit Staples, but Staples clearly states that they require some business credit already on the Dun & Bradstreet report. Well, if that client submits and they had nothing on their DMB report, they're obviously going to be declined, right? So we want to make sure you meet the requirements before you apply. If you need, that's what the advisor team is here for. That's why you're in the program, is for us to illustrate what lenders are the best fit for you. But keep that in mind. Don't apply for anything that you're unsure of, and certainly don't go out and apply for your own on your own without knowing what those requirements are and consulting with the advisor team, because that's why you're in the program, is so that we can make this process easy for you. Lenders don't typically publish what their requirements are. They'll give you some guidelines, but they don't give you the detail. Of course, they're not going to publish how to get an approval. And so what we know is we submit enough applications, we have enough contacts that we do actually know what a majority of the lenders out there are looking for. We know those specifics, and so we can help guide you to only apply with those lenders that you can actually potentially get approvals from. Okay. Now, if you do get that decline, you made sure you met those requirements before applying. What do? Well, I recommend picking up that phone and talking to, for instance, if you were declined with Staples, talking to their customer service saying, why was I declined? And they'll say, well, I'm going to mail you a letter. Well, what does that letter say? What was my decline reason? And unable to verify business. Well, why weren't you able to verify my business? What do you need? And you can have that conversation with the individual there. If they sound like they're just not sure, ask for a manager. You can do that very nicely. Hey, it sounds like something might be wrong with my application here. Do you have a manager that I can talk to? I want to make sure that my application was submitted and reviewed correctly. Talk with the manager. Some declines are often turned into an approval with that one phone call. I know Staples does that all the time, where my client will follow through and actually end up with an approval. And that feels pretty good. You picked up that phone and you got a decline turned into an approval. Okay, so pick up that phone. Jessica, any other thoughts on there?
You nailed it on the spot by saying asking for a reconsideration. That's got to be the best thing you can do if you have a decline. I know in my case there are a lot of times that we'll put in an application for some funding, and through the automated system, they'll get declined automatically, even when some of those reasons that popped up had nothing to do with what was on their file, but there was something else in their file. So it was just an automatic decline. All it took was just a phone call, and we got a reconsideration or we got an approval, and we overturned that decline. It happens all the time. So follow up is the best thing you can do if you were declined. Absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah, and Jessica hit an important point to bring out. Most of these application processes are automated. Rarely do they go into a manual verification. So sometimes we want that application taken out of the automated process so that someone manually looks at it to eliminate any system error and to really overcome those hurdles. So the squeaky wheel gets the grease for sure in that situation. You want to call and ask questions and also talk to managers as needed. Okay, well, let's say you did get the approval, but you didn't get the terms you wanted. And this happens a majority of the time. We don't always get what we want, but it definitely does not hurt to ask for what you want out of that approval. So after your application is approved, and make sure it is approved, make sure everything is pretty much finalized. You don't want a chance at turning to a decline. I would talk with the lender and ask for an increase. Hey, I only got 5,000, but I feel like I need 10. You know, five's not enough for me. Can I get a $10,000 line of credit? And they'll tell you yes or no, typically right there on the phone. Again, you can ask for a manager if you feel like that individual just maybe is not in a situation where they can approve something like that. It typically does need to be a manager. They'll review it and say, you know what, you're right. We can increase that. Maybe not to 10,000, but we can do 7,500. The other thing you can do is ask for better terms. Hey, you gave me 13%, but I really need 9.99. Can you adjust that rate? Or when can I have a rate adjustment? And you don't always get what you ask for, but it never hurts to ask. And I see time and time again where a client does ask and they do get improved rates, terms, and so forth. Like I said, talk to a manager. And then once you do talk to them and you finalize the rate and term, apply for increases every 6 to 12 months, depending on their policy. Now, keep in mind, you'll want to ask them if it is a personally guaranteed loan or line, if they're going to check your personal credit and if it creates an inquiry. In general, they don't. It's a soft hit, and that's great. But you'll want to double check because remember, those personal inquiries are gold. So you'll want to apply for increases as much as possible, especially on these trade accounts, because we want high credit limits reporting on those business credit reports. It's going to help you get higher and higher of approvals. And especially when we apply for those business credit cards that don't require personal guarantee, if you've got a $15,000 trade account reporting, they're going to mimic that highest approval that you have on your business credit report. Jessica, I know you deal with this a little bit in your field too. Any other thoughts or ideas for our clients in that area?
Yeah, as far as the increase, so when you get an initial approval, it's the same as the declines. A lot of the times you'll get an initial approval and it's just an automated approval. And it's because it's automated, they don't give you the maximum amount that they could give you based on your credit worthiness, because again, it's just an automated number. So it just takes that phone call. It's that follow-up that is so important that could give you higher lines. It's not always a guarantee, like Megan said, that you will get what you asked for. It's very common for a bank to approve what you're managing currently. So if you do have a number that, let's say you get a $5,000 card and you need more, but you're only managing $3,000 cards personally, they might not increase your lines. But let's say you're managing $5,000 lines and you ask for an increase. If you don't make yourself, be sure not to make yourself in need. Make sure you don't make them feel like you're in need of this money, because it could be a red flag to them that you might not be able to pay it back. So you don't want to call them sounding desperate, but you do want to let them know that, hey, I do need this money for my business. I have expenses to cover, and I want to make sure that my utilization is not excessive. So to have a better utilization rate would require an increase in my limit, and a lot of times it will help.
Right. And I love you brought up a fantastic point. We don't want to sound desperate. We don't want to raise any red flags. And anytime you talk to somebody, it moves your application from an automated review to a manual review. And every once in a while, sometimes we take the chance when something's moved to a manual review, they might actually see something they don't like. So it doesn't happen a lot. You just want to be careful. And when it's moved to that manual review, in general, you can get better rates and terms. But you want to keep that in mind when we move it to a manual review, somebody's actually looking at it. Unfortunately, I have had from time to time a client that applies for an increase 12 months later, but in that 12 months, their personally guaranteed business credit card on their personal credit side, their credit had fallen considerably. Well, as part of that manual review, they of course saw that the personal credit had dropped quite a bit, and therefore the line was actually decreased instead of increased. So you want to keep that variable in mind. I strongly suggest always calling and asking for increases and better terms. But if you know it's a personally guaranteed card and your personal credit has hit some major bumps since you initially got the card, I wouldn't suggest calling in and asking for an increase or doing anything that would trigger a manual review. Okay. Any other thoughts on that, Jessica? Did we cover it?
I think that we covered everything on this
Okay.
one. You've nailed it pretty
Okay.
much on the spot.
Okay, good. All right. So I like to keep these short and sweet because I know we all have so much to get done each day, but it is a pleasure being an advisor to many of you small business owners. It's exciting to me. I feel like small businesses, the bread and butter of our country and our economy, and I'm excited about what you all are doing. And I am honored to be a part of that process. I'm thankful that Jessica joined us today. She does unsecured business financing where she orchestrates or she puts together uh, many different business credit applications and knows what all the lender's underwriting requirements are to effectively get the client as much financing as possible. Um, and I probably butchered that description, Jessica. Do you want to add anything to that?
You know, you did just fine, Megan. That's exactly right. I do have a very, very strong um, knowledge of what the institutions, the banking institutions look for in business credit applications. I know what they're looking for. I know based on the regions, and I know based on their credit profile what they like to see, what they don't, and what will get them more financing as opposed to the lesser amounts of financing if they do approve as opposed to decline. So it is good to go through. It's good to come through me just because you're going to get the biggest amount of financing that you could possibly get as opposed to go out on your own and potentially getting some declines by not knowing the underwriting standards.
Right. And we send a lot of our clients to Jessica because she does such a great job. Her product is so powerful. She's put together this amazing system with all of her knowledge, and clients that we could only get 10, 15, she can get them much more because she knows all the lenders and their behaviors. So if you ever have questions on her product, or of course any of the financing options your business has within this whole financial market, call the advisor team and we will guide you towards your finance officer who works with great lenders like Jessica and her unsecured finance program. So with that, Jessica, thank you for joining us.
You're
And
very welcome.
we appreciate your time. And of course, thank you all for joining us on our Business Advisor Team weekly webinar. Again, follow us on YouTube. Make sure you're registered for these webinars so you get the email notifications each week, and keep coming back. It's every Thursday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. The advisor team phone number is on your screen, 800-497-0499. You can also send us an email at advisor@businessfinancesuite.com. Everybody have a wonderful day, and we'll talk with you again next week.